Have you ever really thought about what total spiritual surrender actually looks like? Well, today we're going to deconstruct a really fascinating and honestly a deeply emotional prayer from way back in 1956. Our goal here isn't to judge it, but to really dig in and understand the powerful story it's telling. A story about a profound sense of failure, divine sorrow, and a pretty desperate plea for a complete transformation.
Right off the bat, this prayer doesn't open with a request for blessings or some kind of celebration of faith. Nope. It starts with this urgent plea that's just rooted in a deep, deep sense of inadequacy. The title itself, Please Bear With Our Unworthiness, it sets the stage for everything that's about to come. It's an admission of failure from the very first line. So the prayer immediately dives into its first major theme, which is this historic, kind of heavy sense of unworthiness. The argument being made is that this isn't just about a personal failing. It's supposed to be the culmination of a vast, multi-generational story of human inadequacy. And check out the time scale being used here. The prayer specifically calls out a 6,000-year history. Now, that's not just some random number. It's meant to really magnify the weight of this failure. It paints this picture of a long, agonizing history, a divine sorrow that's been piling up for millennia. You see, the point here isn't just about individual mistakes. The prayer positions the author and their community as the living embodiment of this entire history of disappointment. They see themselves as the very source of this divine sadness, almost like they've inherited this huge, collective spiritual debt. Okay, so after establishing this massive history of failure, where does the prayer go from there? Well, the focus shifts. It becomes this desperate desire to finally bridge that gap. The central plea becomes one for trust, to finally become someone or something that the divine can actually rely on. And this part reveals this kind of tragic paradox that's sitting right at the heart of the prayer. On one side, you've got this idea that heaven is almost compelled to believe in humanity, to keep investing hope. But on the other side, humanity's own history of faults has made that belief nearly impossible to justify. It's a real catch-22. And this is a really crucial point. The prayer isn't just asking for forgiveness. It's asking for a fundamental change in character. It's a plea for the ability to fulfill a responsibility, to finally become inherently trustworthy and reliable in a way that, according to this prayer, humanity has just never been before. So, how in the world do you solve a 6,000-year-old problem of untrustworthiness? The prayer proposes something pretty radical. It's not just a promise to do better. It's an act of complete and total self-surrender. This offering is incredibly comprehensive. It covers every single aspect of existence. The prayer talks about handing over minds and bodies, your very mortality, and even the small, mundane details of your daily life. This goes so far beyond simple belief. It's basically a proposed transfer of ownership over your entire being. Now, the prayer uses the word sacrifices, but you have to understand it's not really about an ending. In this context, a sacrifice is about becoming something usable, something proper for a divine purpose. So the goal isn't destruction, it's transformation. It's about turning that unworthiness into worthiness by being accepted and finally being put to good use.
And that brings us to the ultimate goal. After all this surrender, after all this talk of sacrifice, what's the desired outcome? Well, the prayer aims for nothing less than a complete reversal of its own starting point.
And here it is, the ultimate payoff. Remember, the prayer begins by identifying humanity as the source of lamentations, the very cause of divine sadness. The end goal is to flip that completely on its head, to transform from being the problem into being the solution, a source of joy. The metaphor used here is so specific and so powerful, roots of life. This isn't a plea to become, say, a flower that offers only a moment of beauty. A root is foundational, it's stable, it is a source of continuing life. The hope here is to become a permanent, life-giving foundation for a whole new reality, one that finally brings joy to the divine.
Ultimately, this prayer from 1956 presents this really radical vision of what transformation could be. And it leaves us with a pretty profound question to think about. What does it truly mean for any person or for any group to pursue a path of such total, absolute spiritual surrender?